Previous caller mentioned something very important that you guys completely brushed over, and that's something that was slipped into the 2012 NDAA. It was the rescinding of the Smith-Mundt Act. And what this has done is open the floodgates for the media to basically lie to us if it's in the best interest of the government. So what we're witnessing here is the deep state aligned with media, and they have a free pass. We're a lot of questionable things happening in this country. We got mass shootings. I'm sorry to say these things are questionable. And under this law, the rescinding of the Smith-Mundt Act, in reality, the government could be working with media to deceive us, and it's legal. Talk about the rescinding of the Smith-Mundt Act, please.
Dan, we'll let you go there. Dan in Massachusetts. Eleanor Clift, any thoughts on what you're...
I think that sounds to be like a conspiracy theory that's alive and well. I'm not going to comment on it.
Cheryl Chumlin?
I'm not familiar with that particular act, but I will say that back in the 1950s, there was that whole Operation Mockingbird thing, which was never formally confirmed by the CIA, but of course that was the operation where CIA operatives worked with U.S. media to shape the messages that came out of the media, and it was purportedly supposed to have hit at hundreds of journalists and reporters. And that's something that has been reported and used in different terms.
What was the message that they were trying to get across in this?
It varied. It went on for years, right. And it wasn't just domestic, but it was also to slant and shape how government officials worked with foreign officials as well. But don't take my word for it. Look it up.
Well, we have aspects of the government, the USIA and Voice of America, that transmit American values abroad.
I only bring it up because you say conspiracy theorist as if it's ridiculous.
Well,
but at the same time,
he was tying mass shootings with the media and government interference to fool the American people.
Right. We're dismissing
like a lot
theories
of connecting
conspiracy theories as if they're ridiculous, but there are some things that our government has been involved in, including our deep state type government officials that have been recorded in history and proven.
Well, we have a moment or two. Let's get out.
And therefore, that gives credence to what you said.
Let's wrap up with a call or two here.
It doesn't give credence, but it
Eddie in Millbury, Massachusetts.
Just randomly dismissed.
Let's get one more. Eddie.
Democrats must recognize that Zohran Mamdani is the future of the party. Unfortunately, it's the Republican Party. We've run this experiment many times, and the results are always obvious. Here's capitalist South Korea at night from space. Here's socialist North Korea. Yeah. In 1990, Venezuela was wealthier than Poland. But then Poland, finally free of Soviet-style economics, went all in on capitalism. And now their economy is as big as Japan. And people there have high wages, low inflation, cars, vacations, homes. Meanwhile, Venezuela traded capitalism for Hugo Chavez's socialism for the 21st century, which turned out to be like socialism in the last century, or any century, a fucking mess. It turned one of Latin America's richest countries into one of its poorest. Low wages, high inflation, shortages, outages, 8 million people fleeing. If you think New York can somehow reinvent this wheel, you're in for a rude awakening.
Ted Cruz, who's a big MAGA guy. Ted Cruz, of course, ran against Trump in 2016, but Ted Cruz was a sitting senator from Texas for the entire Biden administration, where they sent over 12 million people into his state illegally over the border. Now, if Ted Cruz had held like a press conference every week and said to the governor of his state, Greg Abbott, I'm the senator from Texas, our state's being invaded, it's an entry point for the country, this is destroying Texas and America, mobilize the National Guard today and seal that border. And if that precipitates a conflict with the federal government, so be it. This is illegal, it's immoral, and it's going to wreck this country. National Guard exists for a reason. Use it now. If he'd done that, that would have happened, but he didn't. Because he was busy serving his masters in another country, which is not our country. And that is true not just of Ted Cruz, who's the most kind of pathetic, craven example, but of so many Republican politicians. They didn't want closed borders because their donors didn't want closed borders. Of course, they were all in on the war on terror, and they refused even to look backwards and assess whether or not what they had advocated for had succeeded. They were all in on the Iraq war, like I was. But the difference is they refused to admit that they were wrong. And millions of people died as a result of that, of their being wrong. And our treasury was emptied, and the U.S. dollar devalued completely to the point where gold is over 4,000 today. Why is that? Maybe because we spent like $6 trillion on the war on terror, got nothing out of it. We sent pallets of cash to warlords in various countries. What do we get out of that? Nothing. We armed the Taliban. What do we get out of that? Nothing. The whole thing was insane. If you can't say that was bad, if you can't say I'm sorry for supporting that, you're a deeply corrupt person. And Trump called them out, and they hated him for it. As to globalization, they benefited from it. Of course, they're tools of the finance class. Of course, every one of them. They had no real interest in ending that. And on free speech, perhaps most shamefully of all, the Republican Party's core institutions, its publications, National Review, the New York Post, Fox News, whatever, its think tanks, too many even to mention, all of them acted not as guardians of free speech, pushing the limits of acceptable discourse, encouraging people to open their minds and think creatively about what's best for the country. No, they acted as scolds, as crossing guards, forcing their fellow conservatives to shut up and get back in lane. That's the whole career of William F. Buckley, was telling fellow conservatives that's not acceptable. They weren't for free speech. They were just the opposite. They were censors. And Trump exposed all of that. And they hated him for it. All of them. There are very few Republican office holders in 2016 or 2020 or 2024 or even right now in October of 2025 who sincerely like Trump. They hate Trump because he represents everything they're opposed to. They hate Trump, including people who work for Trump, hate Trump. And some of them said it out loud. Here's one of Trump's new best friends back in 2016 explaining how much he hates Donald Trump.
At some point, you got to stand up to it. I do not like bullies, and I never have. So I will not be voting for Donald Trump, and he can thank Roger Stone. And if they piss me off one more time, I'm going to urge millions and millions of you, should he get the nomination, not to vote for him either. I'm very serious about this.
Mark Levin is very serious about this. So why was Mark Levin mad? Why was he so mad? Why was Bill Kristol so mad? They were both kind of for Trump, actually. I remember very well. I knew them. And a lot of other people in Washington, very much like them. Why were they so mad at Trump? Well, that was early April of 2016. That was a few weeks after Trump announced at that earlier referenced primary debate in South Carolina that the Iraq War was a mistake. Whoa, that was too far. Because any politician who will acknowledge that the Iraq War was a mistake probably won't get on board with the future Iraq War. And that's all they cared about, was more Iraq wars, waged on behalf of another country, its interest, not ours. Irrelevant the damage to the United States, irrelevant the cost, irrelevant the death toll. They wanted politicians who would do that again. And anyone who called it a mistake probably wouldn't. And so it's just worth remembering that some of Donald Trump's staunchest allies, the ones always telling you, lecturing you about MAGA and telling you who's in, who's out, you're not MAGA, you're not MAGA. Those very same people disagree with every single one of Donald Trump's 5 stated rationales for running, and much more important than that, all 5 reasons that tens of millions of Americans voted for him. They don't just disagree with Trump, they disagree with the bulk of the country who want these things badly. And those people are now telling you, oh, you're not MAGA. This is the pigs and the men becoming indistinguishable in the final scene of Animal Farm. And again, it's organic. This happens to all institutions. It will happen unless someone stops it, unless there is a clear and persistent and repeated articulation of what we're doing here. What is this about? Is it about one guy? No, it's not. Sorry. It's not about one guy, a guy to whom most of us will always be grateful for articulating vitally important principles out loud, being the first one in my lifetime to do so. God bless you for doing that. But it's bigger than any person. It's about the survival of the country. And it's about these 5 facts, these principles, these pillars. That's what MAGA is. And so you can measure anybody who claims to lead the movement against those 5 things because they don't change until they're fixed, which they have not been. So we thought it'd be worth checking in with one of Donald Trump's earliest supporters, someone who supported Donald Trump not because she thought he was super charismatic or so great or hilarious, but she, in addition to those qualities, she agreed with all 5 things. Marjorie Taylor Greene was a business owner in Georgia in 2016 who was at the first Trump rallies that year, continued going to Trump rallies, and by the end of Trump's first term was so inspired by Donald Trump and what he was saying that she ran for Congress. And she, unlike most of her colleagues in that body, actually meant it. And because they could smell that she meant it, because sincerity is by far the most dangerous quality in Washington, someone who really means it is an actual threat. Thomas Massie isn't a threat because he won't accept AIPAC money. Thomas Massie is a threat because he won't accept AIPAC money on principle. Not because he hates Jews or hates Israel. He doesn't. But because he doesn't think American politicians should be bought by foreign countries. That's against his principles. And because he really means it, he can't be bought. So, of course, he must be destroyed. And now Marjorie Taylor Greene, who of all 535 members of the 435 members of House of Representatives, embodies most purely those principles. And she has cleaved to those principles. She has stuck to them through the years. And for that is now being written out of the movement by MAGA stalwarts like Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham and Mark Levin, none of whom agree with a single word Trump says and all of whom hate him. So we thought it'd be interesting to talk to her and ask, will it succeed? Will you be kicked out of the movement that you are a core part of? I don't know. Let's ask her. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia joins us now.
Hi, Tucker.
Congresswoman, thanks so much for doing this. So I keep reading that you are not representative of MAGA, and that's why I want to have this conversation, because I just want to get on tape before Wikipedia erases the past completely and we have no reference points, that you are not a latecomer to the Trump phenomenon, correct?
Oh no, I've been on the Trump train since 2015. Back when I was just a regular person, didn't even have an idea about running for Congress. As a matter of fact, he laid out those 5 pillars, and I was listening to these clips of Donald Trump, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that man. And those are all the reasons I supported him from the very beginning when he stood on that stage among 17 Republican presidential candidates, and the rest of them I thought were slimy politicians, but Donald Trump spoke the language that I understood, and he was the one that made sense to me.
You know that Trump is really hated by your colleagues and by almost every single person in Washington. Not every single. There are people at the White House who sincerely love Trump. I know that to be true. But the overwhelming majority of Republicans in Washington secretly hate Trump, and they're too afraid of him to say so, but they hate him. Lindsey Graham, obviously. Ted Cruz really hates him. Mark Levin openly hates him. But they hate him because they don't agree. And you know that because in the last 10 years, there has been, other than you and Massie and a few others, there have been almost no elected officials in Washington to articulate what exactly MAGA is about. Have you noticed that?
That's absolutely correct. 1,000%. MAGA. Let's take that acronym. There's only one country in MAGA, and it's America. And I can tell you right now, I want to expand on how much Republicans hate Donald Trump. I became a member of Congress in January of 2021. I had only been sworn in for 3 full days when January 6th happened. And I can tell you firsthand, every single Republican there in Congress literally turned their back on Donald Trump after January 6th. And he didn't even do it. He had nothing to do with what happened that day. He didn't cause it. It was a Fedsurrection. Antifa was involved. And then many of these poor people got swept up and went into the Capitol. And it was myself, Matt Gaetz, and a few others. We were the only ones that stayed, said that he's our president. He's the leader of the Republican Party. The American people will not abandon him. I did not abandon him. As a matter of fact, I fought my own Republican colleagues for years, literally years, until he finally won the primary in 2024. That was when they begrudgingly, literally begrudgingly, started saying, okay, I support Donald Trump. He's our nominee. And they still hated him. They absolutely hated him. I can remember Mike Lawler coming up and saying, you know, he hated Donald Trump openly, used to make fun of him all the time. And then all of a sudden, after Donald Trump won in 2024, he finally decided it was time to put on a MAGA hat. It just made me sick. But these people are so fake. The only reason that they kiss up to Donald Trump, our president, the only reason they kiss up to him is because they're terrified of a Truth Social post, because they're terrified of their own constituents that fully support a MAGA, that fully support America first, and fully support everything that Donald Trump has laid out now for years and years. And, you know, Americans got to the point where electing Donald Trump was a referendum on the Republican Party. And I very much feel that, because many times I hate my own party and I blame Republicans for many of the problems that we have today. And I blame them for being so America last, to the point where they are literally slaves to all the big industries in Washington, the military industrial complex, big pharma, health insurance industries, you name it. They are literally slaves to them, and they love the foreign wars so much. But Donald Trump was a referendum to the Republican Party on behalf of the American people, the forgotten man and woman of America that were just so sick of Washington, D.C. And that was me. Absolutely. That has been me the entire time. That's me today, literally serving as a member of Congress. And that's why people see me push back on my own party.
You ever feel like the end of the month, all of your money's gone? Where'd it go? Well, one of the places it went is to unnecessary subscriptions. You probably have a lot of them. One night, for example, you decide to watch a movie, so you download a streaming service that carries it, but then you forget to cancel the service. They're banking on that, by the way. The next weekend, you want to watch a different movie, so you download another streaming service that carries that movie, but you forget to cancel that too. And the next thing you know, you're paying hundreds of dollars a month for subscriptions you forgot you had and don't need. One of the many perils of modern life. We have a solution. We're excited to partner with Rocket Money. It's a great company that can help you fix all of this. It's a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending in a non-judgmental way, and helps you lower your bills. You can grow your savings. The app so far has saved users, we estimate, $2.5 billion, including over $880 million in canceled subscriptions alone. 10 million people use Rocket Money and save up to $740 per year when they use all of the app's premium features. It's easy to use. It's super effective. A few clicks and you're done. You save. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions. Reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/Tucker today. rocketmoney.com/Tucker. Thanks for watching. You can go to tuckercarlson.com for our entire library of everything we've done, and we hope you will.
I asked questions you couldn't answer, so that's why I gave a statement. Do you agree that the same Social Security number was used on at least 20 different CHNV supporter applications?
So first, let me start by saying...
So these are yes/no questions. So yes or no?
I just want to make clear that the role that USCIS plays is on the supporter side.
And I'm asking about supporter applications.
Okay. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that question then? I heard it as the parolee.
No, the same Social Security number was used on at least 20 different CHNV supporter applications. That's the question I asked.
Sorry.
You're aware of that?
Yes, I am very aware of...
That happened at least 3,200 times.
I don't have the exact number.
That's according to DHS's report.
Okay.
You don't dispute DHS's report.
No, I absolutely will not.
And also the same phone number was used on at least 20 different supporter applications, at least 3,300 times. That's according to the report. Do you agree that that report's accurate?
I don't have that report in front of me, but
I'm reading from it.
I won't dispute. Yes, but I don't have it in front of me, and I would prefer.
So you would dispute it?
No, I'm not disputing what I am saying.
So you would deflect and ramble around. You don't disagree with that number. You don't think I'm deliberately cherry-picking number and just saying, oh, I'm just throwing this stuff out. I'm giving you the numbers from the report. Do you trust me on that? Do you at least trust me that far?
Yes.
Okay, so then you agree with that number. The same email address was used on at least 20 different supporter applications nearly 2,000 times. You agree with that?
Sir, if there is a situation where we have concerns of fraud and integrity, we take action at USCIS, and that is exactly what we have done with regard to CHNV.
So let's clarify here. So I'm laying foundation, and you don't really want to admit that there's this much rampant fraud here. You're trying to tell me that when you find fraud, we cure it. And yet nearly 2,000 times you had the same email address used on 20 different supporter applications. The same exact 184-word text response to a question on the supporter application was used on more than 1,800 such applications by nearly 190 different CHNV supporters. More than 460 non-existent zip codes were used on supporter applications on behalf of more than 2,800 CHNV aliens. So you see, you can dance around and say you don't have the report in front of you and whatnot, but these are the facts. This program is rife with fraud. As of August 6, 2024, DHS had approved more than 80,000 CHNV supporters who were in the U.S. on a temporary basis. I'm going to give you some numbers. 224 CHNV parolees approved as CHNV supporters. That seems awkward. 170 additional parolees, non-CHNV, approved as CHNV supporters. 28,322 temporary protected status holders approved as CHNV supporters. 19,865 SLEs approved as CHNV supporters. 311 DACA recipients approved as CHNV supporters. 1,300 plus aliens in the U.S. on temporary visas approved as CHNV supporters. 64 refugees approved as CHNV supporters. 1,912 conditional permanent residents approved as CHNV supporters. That is the program that you are administering. That's the section that you're administering. That's the supporters. I'm not talking the aliens. I'm not getting into the violation of law of the U.S. Code 1182 when the use of parole is supposed to be on a case-by-case basis, where Secretary Mayorkas himself has sat here and under oath said it's supposed to be on a case-by-case basis. I'm not getting into that. What I'm getting into is a program the side that USCIS is supposed to actually administer, and that is the supporter applications. And the fraud was so rampant, you closed down the program. But you didn't fix it. It's still ongoing. We're waiting for the next report to confirm that these things are still going on because it wasn't fixed. Mr. Chairman, my time's up. I'll yield back.
Mr. Chairman, can I respond to the question?
Briefly, sure.
Yes.
There was no question because I asked questions you couldn't answer, so that's why I gave a statement. There was no question for you, ma'am.
I've got to hear this.
The book of Revelation, especially the first 4 horses of the apocalypse. The question is, why these 4? Why these colors? There is information contained in the colors. God is not trying to confuse us, and He's not just throwing colors out there. There must be a rational justification for why He picked these 4. Take a look at your screen. What do you see? Here's the symbol, the national symbol of next door neighbor to Israel, Jordan. What colors do you see? Can you help me here? White, red, black, and green. And then if you go next door, inside the territory of Israel, there is the Palestinian, symbolized by that flag. What colors do you see on the national flag of Sudan? Let's go to Kuwait. Let's go to the United Arab Emirates. What colors do you see? All right, well, let's just go to Libya because it could just be coincidence here. Okay, let's go to Afghanistan. What do you see? Let's go to Syria. What do you see? Let's go to Iraq. What do you see? I wonder if God has successfully communicated something.
I don't know what big old company needs to hear this, but I don't want stores without staff. I don't only want to be able to order food on your app. I don't want to do self-checkout. I want to see human connection, and I want to see those people make enough money to where they want to do those jobs. Oh, well, it's convenient and cost savings. Well, those savings don't seem to be finding their way back to the consumer. With all the advancements in AI and tech and all of that fun stuff, you think that somebody could maybe AI some common sense. I kind of miss going to places where people know your name. Maybe not your business, but definitely your name. I miss feeling valued as a customer. I miss actually having that connection. I want to go into a hardware store and actually maybe see somebody who knows how to use the product that you're selling. Not some kid telling me to download the mobile app and I'll be able to see all of everything on the store. I don't want that. Nobody wants that. I don't want to go through a drive-thru and talk to the Mick robot. Or go into a convenience store that somehow has turned itself into the most inconvenient thing in the world. Don't roll your eyes at me that I don't know how to use your self-checkout. I never got a class. I'm just saying, can we not reinvent the wheel? Maybe, instead of doing all these updates and spending all this money on tech and all the other stuff that nobody wants, you just pay your employees enough to where they want to do their job. Just throwing it out there.
I'm currently waiting for my oven to preheat, so don't mind my chicken just sitting on the stove right there. And by the way, look at my new kitchen towels. Yeah, so cute. But you already know what I'm here for, because we need to talk some shit. Michelle Obama just keeps finding new ways to piss me the fuck off. If you haven't seen this shit, y'all take a look at this.
Let me explain something to white people. Our hair comes out of our head naturally in a curly pattern. So when we're straightening it to follow your beauty standards, we are trapped by the straightness. That's why so many of us can't swim. And we run away from the water. People won't go to the gym because we're trying to keep our hair straight for y'all. It is exhausting and it's so expensive and it takes up so much time. Braids are for y'all so we can work harder and focus on the work. So why do we need an act, an act of law to tell white folks to get out of our hair? Don't tell me how to wear my hair. Don't wonder about it. Don't touch it. Just don't.
The irony of all of this is her sitting there with her hair straight as hell, trying to act like she's struggling because of the white man when her husband had 2 terms in office. Like, if you don't know how to fucking swim, it's probably because your parents didn't teach you how to swim or you just never took swimming classes. But you literally just found a way to blame and oppress yourself about why your hair is straight is to meet the beauty standards of white women. That's why you don't go to the gym and why you don't know how to swim. Bitch, is you for real? She has her own beauty team that dresses her up in designer and does her hair every day. But I mean, yeah, she has all of that because the white man is holding her back. Like, this shit don't make no damn sense. And then the fact that people broke out into applause. Oh my God, wow, she's amazing. When she just used hair as another reason to tell black women to feel oppressed and held back. Because the last time I checked, when your beauty team comes and blows out your hair and makes it straight, why do you have them do that when you could just go outside and feel confident in your Afro puff? Like, can we please stop this bullshit? Nobody is holding you down and holding a gun to your head and saying, I want you to look like white women. Oh, and women get braids. Black women get braids because it helps them to work harder. Focus on their work. If that ain't the most I want to be a professional victim shit I've heard in my goddamn life. And then, of course, coming out of the mouth of someone who's not struggling, someone whose husband was fucking president and she was first lady. Like, did she forget it was because of the majority of white people in this country why her husband won 2 terms? Like, this act is just getting so fucking old.
The entire trans industry should be shut down and criminalized. These surgeries ought to rank up there with electric shock treatments and lobotomies.
You called it Transtifa.
Yes. Yes. I think that this entire thing is Island of Dr. Moreau level stuff. And here's why. We're messing with wiring beyond our capacity. We are taking the most intimate core and the first biological fact ever said about you and about me and about anyone who has ever lived is not, oh, look, they're non-binary, we don't know. The first biological fact said about oh, look, they were born in the wrong body. The first biological fact stated about every human being that's ever been born is it's a boy or it's a girl. And when you become a godless culture, something has to fill that void. We'll always make it ourselves. And now we think that we are qualified to tinker with mystical cosmic forces beyond us that we can't possibly understand, math we couldn't possibly begin to do, because we're mortal. We're sinners. It exceeds us. We're not transcendent. We're not perfect. And I think when you tinker with people on this intimate of a level, I think we're unleashing things we don't understand, rather than urging them to go seek the counseling, particularly of the spiritual variety that they clearly need, and instead just tinkering with their psyches all the more. I think there is a large cost to pay for that for both the victim and then the rest of us that they later victimize. And this is just yet another blatant example. And I think these surgeries en masse ought to be completely shunned, completely banned and criminalized. On the micro level, the irony is that Charlie was really the last general we had left that was still trying to reach across the aisle.
While all eyes were focused on New York and Mamdani, 42 Muslim candidates backed by terror-linked network have seized key offices across America, proving that the Muslim Brotherhood plan to infiltrate and destroy America from within is now a reality. 76 Muslims ran for office nationwide, 42 won, 3 races still pending. The 42 Muslim officials now occupy positions in some of the most influential jurisdictions in the country, from New York's mayor office to Virginia's executive branch, from Michigan's heartland to local school boards. The newly elected officials span at least 9 states: New York, Virginia, Michigan, New Jersey, Maryland, Washington, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. The list includes 6 mayors, 4 state legislatures, 20 city councils and commissioners, 6 school board members, 2 judges, and 3 other political positions. You've seen me talking about the Muslim Brotherhood plan for America and holding this document in my hand. They told us the plan, now we're watching it unfold in real time. This plan was written in 1991. We are 34 years into it. And as a refresher, here's a paragraph titled, "Understanding the Role of the Muslim Brother in North America." Quote, "The process of settlement is a civilization jihadist process. The brothers must understand that their work in America is a kind of grand jihad in eliminating and destroying the Western civilization from within and sabotaging its miserable house by their hands." The last page lists 29 front Islamic organizations in the U.S., including the Muslim Student Association, which Mamdani was a member of, and IAP, which later became CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations. These Islamic organizations are celebrating a stunning milestone, the most significant wave of Muslim political victories in American history, with 42 Muslims elected to office across the United States. You would be excited too to add 42 Ilhan Omars and Rashida Tlaib's Jew-hating, America-hating people to public office. CARE, the unindicted co-conspirator in the largest terrorism financing trial in American history, is bragging about their successful political activism. CARE's federal super PAC, the Unity and Justice Fund, is the weaponized financial engine funding and winning U.S. elections. CARE is mobilizing Muslims and mosques as political launchpads to build campaign infrastructure. The result is a political machine operating from the pulpit to the ballot box. The 2025 elections shattered every record for Muslim representation in American politics, marking a historic leap into municipal and state power. CARE and its affiliates are preparing a 2026 directory of elected Muslim officials and expanding programs to mobilize more candidates before the 2026 midterms. The media calls this a historic first. Terror-linked CARE calls this phase 1. And what is even more scary, they locked shields with the left, whom I call useful idiots, working together to destroy America and everything you and I stand for. This is why you need to be engaged now. We need you in this fight, especially as the anti-Semites and anti-America unite. Join me and actforamerica.org as we mobilize the nation. We need to fight to preserve America's values and freedom. Start a chapter, become a member, volunteer. We are organizing neighborhoods nationwide, bringing people together who are as concerned about the transformation of our country as we are. Time to commit that America will not be destroyed under our watch. If you don't have time to start a chapter or volunteer, donate $26 to our 2026 campaign, and we'll send you a copy of the Muslim Brotherhood Plan. Become a partner and help us fight 24/7 to save our country. Share this video. Go to actforamerica.org right now. Join us and donate. Together, we save America. Thank you.
The Emir of Qatar, he was also the one who decapitated Daniel Pearl, the Wall Street Journal. Obviously, everybody was horrified by it. He said, will you convert to Islam? Pearl said no, and he said, I'm giving you one more chance. He said, no, I'm Jewish, and he cut his head off. This is a big problem. That's our new best friend. That's one of the great leaders of the Middle East and the world, we've been told. I say no. Qatar is a very dangerous country. They've gotten into the West, not just one party, both parties, all parties, every aspect of our culture, our educational system. It's spreading. Very, very dangerous country. And they are behind the Muslim Brotherhood, Islamic Jihad, Hamas. They supported the Taliban, and they support the destruction of our universities and colleges.
Hello, good morning. Canadian, living in the U.S., been here about a year and a half. I have my own little mission on the go where I try to understand the people that hate your current administration the very most. And one of the things that I've learned about these people is that we feel like universal healthcare is going to save all of the problems that are going on with the healthcare in this country. Now, I come from a country that has universal healthcare, had it for 32 years, okay? So please allow me to provide you with some facts. There will be long waits and doctor shortages. A quarter of Canadians don't even have a family doctor and or access to one. If you're lucky enough to get a doctor, I sure hope that you like them because you don't have a choice. Now, big misconception here is that it's free, okay? Universal healthcare is not free. You will be taxed nearly half of your income whether you use it or not. A lot of Americans don't realize how heavily Canadians are taxed just to sustain the system. You will be taxed on income, fuel, goods, property, and even carbon. One of the best parts about universal healthcare is that it doesn't cover everything. 70% of Canadians actually have to get private insurance on top of universal healthcare to cover all of the extras. The extras would be vision, dental, prescriptions, massage, physio, etc., etc. The list goes on. With universal healthcare, there will be budget restraints. So what does that mean? It means fewer machines. It means less access to some of the new advancements in technology with medicine. There will be less access to new drugs and new therapies, and they are slower to adopt the new medical technologies that come out. Healthcare workers are actually paid a lot less in Canada. So what happens? A lot of them are actually moving their practices stateside. Do you need a specialist? 6 months to a year, easy. But don't worry, if you are too old or too sick to be fixed, they will offer you MAID, M-A-I-D, medically assisted death. Over 15,000 people chose medically assisted death in 2023. And by 2027, you will be able to get MAID if you are mentally ill. If that's not a scary thought, I don't know what is. 1 in 3 Canadians with anxiety, depression, or addiction do not have access to the help that they need. You want to talk about hospitals running at over 100% capacity? 15% of ER visits should have been visits to the family physician. Now, reminder, Canada has about the same population as the state of California, okay? So scaling universal healthcare from about 40 million people to 340 million people, it's not the same as managing 40 million people, especially with how unhealthy the United States is. Thousands of Canadians die every single year while they're waiting on a wait list and waiting to get treatment. 1 in 4 cancers are only found after a trip to the emergency room in Canada. If you don't believe me, talk to a veteran. Ask them about the VA. I've heard some absolute nightmares. And if that doesn't work for you, then head on down to your local DMV to see how it is when a government runs something. So yeah, free healthcare sounds great, but it also sounds fatal. Universal healthcare isn't free if you lose your life before you get treated.
And 4, it was Donald Trump who first reported him to the police, which ultimately led to his arrest in 2006 and his criminal conviction in 2008. Have you heard that on the mainstream media? Yeah, I didn't think so. But you know what? We've actually got yet another key figure who further backs up President Trump's innocence, And this one's going to absolutely blow your mind. Ladies and gentlemen, this is attorney Bradley Edwards, who back in 2008 represented over 70 of Jeffrey Epstein's victims. So you know what? Now take a listen to what attorney Bradley Edwards had to say about President Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Let it play.
The only thing that I can say about President Trump is that he is the only person who, in 2009, when I served a lot of subpoenas on a lot of people, or at least gave notice to some pretty connected people that I wanted to talk to them, he is the only person who picked up the phone and said, "Let's just talk. I'll give you as much time as you want. I'll tell you what you need to know," and was very helpful in the information that he gave, and gave no indication whatsoever that he was involved in anything untoward whatsoever, but had good information that checked out and that helped us, and that we didn't have to take a deposition of him.
That was in 2009?
That was in 2009. So,
do you know if there's any truth to James Patterson's claims that Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago?
I've definitely heard that.
And so, folks, there you have it. Have you heard that on the mainstream media? Once again, yeah, I don't think so. As it would turn out, Donald Trump not only tipped off the police about Jeffrey Epstein's criminal behavior in 2004, he banned him from all of his properties like Mar-a-Lago in 2005, and then in 2009, Trump worked as a confidential informant on behalf of Jeffrey Epstein's victims. Folks, at this point, we not only have an absolutely overwhelming amount of evidence proving not only that President Trump wasn't criminally involved with Jeffrey Epstein, but also, in fact, that he actually worked with law enforcement to help shut down Jeffrey Epstein's entire criminal enterprise. And so I'll tell you what, while the Democrats are busy attempting to politicize the entire Epstein situation, lying about all of the details every step of the way, in an effort to defame President Trump, we all know what the reality is. The Democrats are only pretending to care about this entire situation in an effort to destroy President Trump. Just like everything else they do, they've got absolutely no substance. Everything they do is purely performative. It's all just a bunch of ridiculous virtue signaling, but unfortunately for them, all of us see right through their entire agenda. And the truth is, all these email leaks really expose is this. Epstein hated Trump. Epstein didn't trust Trump. They weren't friends at all whatsoever. And that the Democrats actually tried to manipulate the entire narrative to lie to the public and to destroy President Trump's credibility. So hey, like I said earlier, here's my message to the DNC, to the Democratic National Committee. Get ready to break out that checkbook because we are done tolerating all of the lies.
I think I finally figured out our government. I think I've got this figured out. We supposedly elect a president that can hold 2 terms. That's a total of 8 years. Okay? We've got Congress that have been in office for decades. But anything that goes wrong in this nation, we blame it on the guy who only had 8 years. Some only have 4. And we just pretend that Congress had absolutely nothing to do with anything that was going on in our economy. Why do we always blame the guy that has only been there for 4 to 8 years instead of the people who have been petrified in their congressional seats? These people are the ones running this nation, make no mistake about it. It has nothing to do with the president. The only reason they're fighting Donald Trump is because he's the only one that has stood up and tried to fight for we the people. They have no intentions of letting their cash cows free. Who are the cash cows? That would be us.
This is the scariest sound you will hear when you live in a communist country. This is the last sound my parents heard when their fathers were taken away in the middle of the night, and they never saw their loved ones again. That's the sound of losing your freedom, the sound of always living in fear. That's my family's real life story. We escaped from Vietnam just days before Saigon fell to the communists. We were given a new life in the most generous country on earth. America saved my life. I graduated from the United States Naval Academy. I earned a master's in physics and fellowships at MIT and Harvard before the left replaced merit with racial quotas.
I spent my life trying to repay my debt to America, my country, our country, with 25 years of service in Navy Special Operations, combat in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Somalia. But now our country has taken a dark turn. That's Joe Biden's Justice Department sending 24 armed agents to arrest a pro-life activist in front of his family. That's Joe Biden's IRS raiding a gun shop and seizing thousands of records from law-abiding gun owners. Our names, our addresses, our social security numbers. That's Joe Biden arresting his challenger in the next election, a former president of the United States. And now a different sound. That's the sound of someone breaking into your home or business. The sound of crime destroying our cities and communities. That's how it all starts. They let criminals back on our streets. Millions of illegal immigrants pour across our border each year, including military-aged men from all over the world. And enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in this country. And the Biden family? Well, that's how it works in a dictatorship. The rules don't apply to the rulers. We are losing our country. You know it, but you also know you can't say it. We're forced to say that wrong is right. We're forced to lie. We can't let that happen. I've been all over the world. Believe me when I tell you, if America fails, there's nowhere else to go.